Now, the government has pledged more than £50 million in emergency aid for those affected by the drought in East Africa. Around 500,000 are thought to have been affected by the drought, the worst in East Africa for 60 years. The International Development Secretary, Andrew Mitchell, has been visiting the Dadaab camp in Kenya, which is overflowing with tens of thousands of refugees. Well, we can speak now to Alun McDonald from Oxfam. He's just returned from the Dadaab refugee camp and joins us via webcam from Nairobi. Thanks very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. So tell us a little bit about what you learned when you were there.
Well, I think it's one of the worst situations that I've seen in this region. I met women, children, families they'd walked across the desert, amazing journeys. They'd been walking for 2-3 weeks with very little water or food. They're attacked by hyenas and wild animals and armed bandits on the way, and then they get to this camp a few weeks later, and they're living in incredibly basic conditions. They're making shelters from bits of trees, old clothes, literally anything that they can put their hands on, and they have very little water or food or any kind of support.
More than £50 million of aid been pledged here. How quickly can that help those that need it?
Very quickly, and I mean the urgency is clear in the camp. We have more than about 1,500 people a day who are coming across the border into Kenya from Somalia. More also going into Ethiopia. And they need the basics very quickly, the water, shelter, sanitation, and the quicker that we can get that money, the better. They're also going into the areas that they're arriving in are also very badly affected by the drought. So it's important to remember that it's not just the refugees, it's also the places that they're arriving that are very desperately in need at the moment.
The International Development Secretary has urged other countries to do more. Internationally, do people recognise the severity of the situation, do you think?
I think we're slowly getting there at the moment. This situation has been building for quite some time now, and the warning signs have been there. We are approaching the phase that could be critical, and it's very good to see the British government taking the lead and following the British people, who've been very generous with our appeal so far. And we really need other donors and the rest of the international community now to follow suit and really step up the response over the coming days, weeks and months.
And were those who were responsible for doing so quick enough to read those warning signs that you talk about?
No, not really, and this is part of the problem. We've had this crisis is caused by 2 successive very poor rains stretching back to the end of last year. It's also caused by man-made factors as well as the nature. So a lot of the areas that are affected are either very, very poor and neglected, like in northeastern Kenya, or racked by conflict, like in Somalia. The combination of the failed rains and the human causes is really what's caused this crisis, and we do need a longer-term approach by governments both in this region and also internationally to stop these crises happening year after year.
Okay, Alun McDonald, thanks very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. Thank you. Time now to check on the weather a little closer to home. John Hammond has all the details.